Welcome to Birds of Prey Sports, where we weekly cover Ravens and Orioles news. We're your hosts, TJ and Jared. And in this video, we're going to be doing our game recap of our Week 8 matchup in which we played against the Chicago Bears. A game in which we desperately needed a win, and we had to do it without Lamar. And, thankfully we did that. There was a great game by Tyler Huntley. He really, led the charge, did what he needed to do, gave the ball to who he needed to give the ball to, and we got the job done. And most importantly, the defense, they played lights out. They really balled out in this game. They played well. We caused turnovers. We stopped, we kind of were bend but don't break in the first half, but we really started to lock in the second half. And we did what we needed to do, and so that leads me to want to start, with the defense. I just wanted to say that, shout out to Nate Wiggins. He really had a great game on Sunday. He really had a great game, covering guys like Roma Dunze, and I believe he only allowed 59 yards or something like that. I know a lot of people look at the stats and they'll see, oh, Roma Dunze went off, but when he was on Wiggins, for the most part, Wiggins was, holding him, pretty well. So shout out to Nate Wiggins. Shout out to Kyle Hamilton, Roquan Smith, all those guys. They really locked in and played a good game. Holding the Bears offense to 16 points. I feel like that's a good accomplishment, considering all the weapons they got. So, just kudos to them. Also, I'd like to say that I was impressed with Mike Green. He got his first career sack in that game. You could tell he was hyped up. Things like that are important, to really get, guys going and get their confidence, higher and all the way up. And, I'm glad that he was able to get it against Caleb Williams, a very, mobile quarterback. He kind of does too much sometimes, but, I'm glad he was able to get him against him, and, that hopefully jumpstart him to at least finishing the season with, 5 sacks. So that's just my thoughts, my opening thoughts about the defense. I want to ask you, what did you think?
Yeah, me and you kind of discussed this after the Rams game. We were kind of impressed, but also unimpressed from the defense coming out of that game, where it's like we felt like they kind of made a lot of mistakes to the point where it kind of fed into our defense a little bit, and ultimately we only gave up 17 points that game. And we
Yeah.
still wound up losing because, we had, Cooper Rush out there, men in the quarterback position. But I think when Tyler Huntley came in, it was kind of a preview of what we're going to see this week. Of stuff in the run. Not letting too many big plays happen. As well. I mean, they had that one kind of like BS play at the end with DJ Moore. Shout out. Turk. Where he caught that one hand. It was crazy. I was like, come on, guys, like don't let him score
Yeah.
now. We're winning 30-16, man. Come on, we might have won it 30-16, but you know, um, I think that the defense played pretty even better this week. I think that there was a lot to look positively on. There's obviously a lot still, that is we need to work on, that we need to progress, but it's not dreadful. That's all we wanted this team to be. All this defense to be the rest of the year. They don't gotta be, 2000 Ravens defense. They just gotta be average at this point. And to me, they play a little bit above average. I mean, they figured, they had to get pressure somehow, and they're sending a lot of blitzes, which works sometimes, but it also is a recipe for disaster. I mean, you send blitzes versus Mahomes, over and over again. He might throw for 600 on you, So that's something we're gonna have to maneuver. Maybe during the trade deadline. Getting a pass rusher, but we could discuss that later in the video. But I think Broderick Washington got hurt at the end of this game, so we're really really thin going into Thursday. Going with the defensive line, it's really going to be Peebles, Jones, who had a great game by the way, Travis Jones, and John Jenkins. Unless we make a trade, but I don't think that a trade would make an impact for this game on Thursday, considering they'd have to learn the playbook in a day. you know. But anyways, going back on topic, like you said, shout out to guys like Roquan, Hamilton, you know, um, they really played their asses off on Sunday. They really seemed to have a mission to go out there and hit. That's another thing I noticed as well is they were flying to the ball again. It really felt like the Ravens were flying to the ball again, and tackling well. That was a big problem the first 6 weeks of the season was tackling, and it was embarrassing to watch, that a Ravens defense didn't want to hit, and it's like, come on, guys, and with Marlon not setting the tone, but, kind of reiterating the tone, with that hit on the receiver that should have been a fumble, or interception or whatever you want to call it. I thought that was BS. Sean Smith's gonna do his shit, but that type of mentality we need the rest of the season. With we're not probably gonna be a great defense, but at least go out there hit, man. Like make them feel it. If these guys aren't even getting touched. Remember Lions game, the running backs, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, they weren't even getting hit. They weren't getting touched. Jared Goff wasn't getting touched. So it's just we were hitting Williams, we were hitting the receivers. Then we got that clutch pick. I mean, Nate Wiggins is slowly becoming one of my favorite defensive players on the team just because of his mentality. I mean, he comes in saying to Pagano, "I want to cover the best receiver on the team." That's a dog on the defense that we need. And to kind of end my point here, the Ravens needed to win without Lamar Jackson, in my opinion, to show that they can do it without him. Obviously we won't do it the whole season without him. We need him, for the rest of the year, the next 10 games. But you know, we had to stop playing in this. There's 52 guys on this roster, man. It's
Yeah,
unacceptable that just because Lamar goes down, and I get it, he's your starting quarterback. You're not going to win a lot of games without your starting quarterback, but seems like the 49ers, seems like I don't want to say like the Vikings, but like these teams are winning games without their starter out there, looking
yeah,
competitive. The guys are stepping up. Nobody was stepping up, but I'll say the Rams game and Bears game are definitely, steps in the right direction, to prove themselves that, they're a team, and I think that really highlighted the issues with the Ravens is it's all on one man. Like, no, like it needs to be on everybody. All 12 people who step on that field, on the defense and in the offense, whoever steps on that field, make a damn play. And now that Lamar's back, don't settle on your mortals now. Don't be like, all right, he's back. We can just, dick around. No, you need to step up for him too. So, and I mean that offensive line, defensive line, defense, offense, whatever you want to say, they need to step up just as much as they did this week and last week versus the Rams and this week versus the Bears.
yeah. And you talk about Lamar and the offense there. That leads to my next point. I think the offense did well, and something that I'm really excited about is how we play with Keaton Mitchell.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of
Yeah.
crazy to how we play with him, how we use them in the offense, how we use Keaton Mitchell more. I was so happy to see that, and it's just like that's such a breath of fresh air because I'm sorry, the things that he was doing, I just don't see Justice Hill or
No.
Rasheed Ali doing that. I mean,
No.
just that burst of speed, like he can move from 1 yard to 5 yards in like a second. Just that burst of speed alone is the perfect complement to Derrick Henry. They're the very opposite running backs, but having both of those guys come in, one down, another down, that's the perfect 1-2 punch.
Yep.
And I really feel like, Keaton Mitchell has a good game in the Dolphins game tomorrow. I feel like, we should, very much look at having him be RB2. Like, I'm dead
Absolutely.
serious.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm sorry, Justice Hill. Like I said, I can't even say his name. Rasheed Ali, Justice Hill. Don't do stuff like that. They're like very, very slow compared to him. So I
Yeah.
want to
And
see more
it's funny
Keaton
that
Mitchell.
they're slow, but they're still quick. Like they're considered quick backs. But
Yeah,
Keith Mitchell is just he's a different gear.
next
He's
level.
like
He's lightning speed.
exactly like it's lightning in a bottle. Like once he gets 5, 6 yards down the field, he's zooming.
Yeah, yeah. I've been seeing all these reports. Oh, the Ravens, might trade him. Don't
Dumb.
trade him. You
Dumb.
know,
Dumb. It's dumb.
trade him to me when I do my Madden franchises, but not in real life. Don't trade him. So yeah, that's just what I had to say about Keaton. I feel like, one thing I was surprised by was, Tyler Huntley really made an initiative to get Zay the ball,
Yeah.
I would say. And, Zay had a very good game. I think a good game for, his morale and his mental moving forward, just, establishing that, the mistakes he's made and, the first half of the season that's behind us, we're moving forward now, all those fumbles, the drops, the frustration, it doesn't matter no more. We're 1-0 this week moving forward. So, overall, I think the offense played very well. Want to see more Keaton Mitchell. And I think Tyler Snoop Huntley, he did well. I can trust him, if hopefully not, but if something happens in the future, we can trust him, to hold the house down.
Yeah, and it reiterates my point that I made in the offseason why I thought it was dumb to bring Cooper Rush into this team, and
Yeah.
I don't want to hate on the man. I don't know. He's probably, for all I know, he's a good dude or whatever, but he's just not a good football player, and that's just what it means. And I don't think that they've really constructed this offense well enough just because they need a guy with athleticism to kind of sit, behind, in at the quarterback position, and I understand that this offense is built around Lamar Jackson, so it's going to probably be more efficient with a quarterback with his kind of, skill set. But, in my opinion, I think that you need to build an offense to where anybody can stand back there and throw the ball. I think that it speaks volumes of how well Lamar has played these last 2 seasons behind this offensive line, and how great he is. What potential are they leaving on the table with not giving him a pass protection? So but that's kind of a moot point because we can't really fix that right now. Hopefully they fix that stuff in the offseason, or bring in Zeitler and start, Emory Jones, because like, I mean, Andrew Voorhees is a terrible guard. He makes Falele look like, Marshall Yanda. Like he's just not a good guard. In this league, he's very soft, and he's very weak. And we got to stop with this, injury. Drafting guys who are injured, drafting guys who are injured, I should say. Because it hasn't worked out with Voorhees. It definitely hasn't worked out with Ajabo. I mean, Ajabo don't even look like a football player out there sometimes. Like he just looks like a regular dude out there, and it sucks because he had a hell of athleticism back in Michigan, but I mean after he tore
He's
his
been looking like
Achilles,
that for a while. Just
yeah,
a
he
regular dude out there.
after he tore his Achilles, it just seemed like it cooked his career, man. And I think that once he's gone here, I don't know if he'll have another opportunity anywhere else. In my opinion, that's how bad it is. So, anyways, to go back on topic, the offense, Snoop, shout out to him, man. This is the best game I think I've seen him play, personally. He was dialed in. He had maybe like two turnover worthy plays. He had that ball dropped in the end zone, or I think three. He had the fumble in the first drive that wasn't, I don't know if it was considered a fumble, but it almost got stripped. He had the almost pick in the end zone when he overshot Bateman, when he could have just flicked it to him. I thought he should have just flicked it to him. It would have been a touchdown. We
Mm.
wanted to get a field goal off of that though. So, but and then he had the drop pick, I think, by Kevin Byard later in the game. I think that Kevin Byard just didn't see it, or got tipped or something, the line or something. But we had the ball bounce our way pretty heavily in this game. I think finally we get some good luck. But Snoop, I think those are like the three plays I can remember. I was like, damn, Snoop, come on. Everything else was pretty great. He was running out of the pocket. He just. I remember the one play where Zay tackled him pretty much. I thought that was pretty funny. He was hitting Bateman down the field as well. He had Andrews for one, and then Andrews fumbled. Like Andrews is a big ass goofball at this point. But going back to what you were saying, with Keaton Mitchell, he really is just explosive, and I think trading him would just be a huge mistake. Because I mean he offers just a serious threat in the backfield. Because you almost got like a bruiser, and then you got, the Flash, coming.
Yeah.
I think that, having them both on the field at the same time, yeah, in a formation would be beautiful. Because then you're really like, all right, am I prepared to hit or am I prepared to run? So it's like, and then you got Lamar Jackson back, so it's like, now I really got to be prepared to do something. You don't know. So we got to find some formations, where we can have, honestly, maybe Herrick, Derek on the left, Mitchell on the right, Ricard behind, or Mitchell behind, and then Ricard on the side with Henry on the other side. Like, I don't know, just find something. And it felt like Monken. I don't know if you saw the videos of Monken, uh,
Yep.
where he was outside the stadium. Where he's like, I've been catching a lot of effing flack, and f them mfers or whatever he said. So he heard the noise, and fair enough. I mean, look, I thought it was BS and he was getting thrown under the bus. I think that it's his side of the ball that's probably the best unit on the team. You know, if anything, Orr should have been thrown under the bus. Which I don't think that they really anybody should be thrown under the bus. Really, I think that's really unprofessional. But that just seems like what we're doing. So um, don't know why Monken's catching them. I mean, I'll agree Monken, could progress or improve, I should say, in certain areas, especially in the red zone and the goal line. But you know, in my opinion, you're kind of giving him, make a wish offensive line to work with. I don't know. I just don't feel like Monken should be the one thrown under the bus. And if it goes the way that I think it might go, I don't think Monken's here next year.
Yeah, and hopefully that doesn't happen. Todd Monken's done a great job here so far. He's
Yeah,
helped progress Lamar a lot. So
yeah,
hopefully that doesn't happen. We can kind of right the ship. So that would just be a disaster. It really would.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm gonna be real here. All we're gonna do, Harbaugh would just hire one of his friends. For all I know, he could tell Greg Roman to come back. I don't know, but it's just like, I mean, look, he makes a great hire. I said this before in a past video. He makes a great hire, and then it's a few goofballs after that. So I don't even want to know what would happen after Monken.
Yeah. How do you want to think about it?
It's probably Greg Roman's unborn son. Anyways, you want to get into stats?
Let's go.
All right. Are you see my screen?
Yes. See it.
All right. Well, you can go ahead and read the offense here.
All right. So Tyler Huntley, he went 17 to 22. It's a little bit glitchy. All right. 17 to 22. Yes, that was good. For 186 yards, one passing touchdown.
That
Henry
QBR
at 21 carries and 71. Oh, 90.1. That's good. Good for him. Derrick Henry had 21 carries and 71 yards, 3.4 yards per carry for 2 touchdowns. I wasn't expecting that. 2 touchdowns out of him. Tyler Huntley had 8 carries for 53 yards. Keaton Mitchell, 4 carries for 43 yards. Look at that yards per average, 10.8 yards per carry, bro. Insane, bro. Wow. And you want to have Justice Hill over that and Rasheen Ali.
I didn't think I saw Rasheen Ali at all on Sunday.
I didn't. I only with the special teams. Was he on the special teams? I don't even remember seeing him on there.
I mean, the fact that Harbaugh is going to sit here and say to our face that, oh, he didn't start because, he doesn't ever play special teams wise. Like, fuck out of here, man.
Yeah, that was just a bad excuse. That's probably not even a reason. He probably just made that up.
Yeah, he just wants to be anyways.
Zay Flowers had 7 receptions for 63 yards. Rashad Bateman had 2 receptions for 51 yards. It's such a Raven stat. Mark Andrews had 3 receptions for 34 yards. DeAndre Hopkins had 1 reception for 14 yards. Another Raven stat there. Charlie Kohler had 1 reception for 10 yards. Isaiah Likely, who we haven't really got going, he has 2 receptions for 8 yards. Tylan Wallace had 1 reception for 6 yards. So the ball was spread around pretty, evenly, which is nice to see.
There's the Mark Fumble Drews.
Yeah.
Anyways, the transition into the defense here. Roquan Smith led the way with 12 tackles. Kyle Hamilton had 8 tackles. He had a QB hit as well. Nate Wiggins had 7 total tackles. He had a tackle for loss, a pass deflection, and an interception. Teddy Buchanan, I thought, has grown over the last few weeks. He has 6 total tackles, 2 tackle for losses. Malachi Starks, 5 total tackles. Marlon Humphrey, 5 total tackles and a QB hit. Lloyd Gilman, 5 total tackles and a pass deflection. David Ajabo, 3 total tackles. TJ Tampa, 2. Keandre Jackson had 2 total tackles. I didn't even know he was out there. KVN had 2 total tackles. He had a tackle for loss and he had a QB hit. JW Owuzie had 2 total tackles as well. John Jenkins had 2 total tackles. Mike Green had a tackle, but he also had a sack and a tackle for loss. And a QB hit, sackle. And that's pretty much it. Like I said, Nate Wiggins had an interception. To move on to team stats here. Let me move this out of the way. First downs. The Bears had 19 first downs to our 24. They had 13 passing first downs to our 8. They had 5 rushing first downs to our 13. They had 1 from a penalty. We had 3. They were 6 for 13 on third down, and we were 4 for 10. They were 0 for 1 on fourth down. We were 1 for 1. They ran 62 total plays to our 59, so not a lot of plays from us. They had 372 total yards to our 355. We both ran 9 drives. We both averaged 6 yards per play. They had 96 rushing yards to our 177. They were 1 for 3 in the red zone. We were 3 for 6. So again, more opportunities to blow them out. They had 11 penalties for 79 yards. We had 6 for 45. I thought I saw a ghost. We had a turnover. They had a turnover. They had 1 turnover to our none. And they held the ball for 29 minutes and 30 seconds to our 30 minutes and 30 seconds. So it's pretty even stats-wise, but not even on the scoreboard. So
all that matters.
Yeah, that's all that matters. Yeah, I mean, how many times did we outgain teams this year, but they blew us out, like the Lions or whatever, So It's nice to be on the other side of one. But before we close out this video and everything, I just want to say with the predictions last week, TJ did go 9 for 4 last week. He was obviously predicted the Ravens win, so that was kind of the deciding factor. as I picked the Ravens to lose. I was 8-5
You
last
don't got
week.
no
So,
faith. No
huh?
faith. You ain't got no faith in us.
Yeah, I had some stupid games that I predicted. Like I predicted the Vikings to beat the Chargers. Like what the hell's wrong with me? So I was 8-5 last week, but ultimately I'll say that the Ravens game was a deciding factor in my opinion. So maybe I'll have a different prediction on Thursday. So maybe not.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, and I want to say it's fun, predicting the games. I feel like this season alone, there's been a lot of like underdogs winning, in a lot of games. So, that just shows you how crazy NFL is, especially betting wise. It always sucks, but
Rigged.
I
No.
really enjoy this segment that we added.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always wanted to implement this in the past few years, but I never like found a good website for it until now. So
What, what is that website actually?
it's called a Playoff Predictor, I think. It's
Okay.
Playoff Predictor. So
Hopefully, we
NFL
make the
Playoff
playoffs.
Predictor. Yeah, I wish it was called something else like just NFL like weekday predictions or something. But I'm glad we get to do it live. But I had something to say, I forgot. Oh yeah, best thing also about this week besides us winning is the AFC North lost outside of us. So
Oh yeah.
we're right there again. All of a sudden we're favored for the AFC North somehow. I don't think that we win it, but that'd be crazy if we did.
Yeah, they saw that Chargers game, was like, I mean, the Steelers game was like, oh, never mind.
They got freaking beat on their own home turf on Sunday Night
Yeah,
Football.
they got beat down. Yep.
Tucker
So
Kraft he was
yeah,
crafting them up.
yeah, so hopefully we can do that. But I think that's all we got for this video.
Yep.
Good, we're good. So that's all we got for this video. Just want to say again, special shout out to Jared J Ram. He's been grinding with those YouTube shorts. You guys have been enjoying them. And also, to anybody that sees our YouTube shorts, make sure you subscribe as well. We got a lot more cool shorts coming, your way. This is me kind of spoiling it here, but we will be going to another Ravens game, courtesy of Jared. He hooked us up with some tickets. So we got even more, great shorts coming.
Had to get those before Lamar's
Yeah,
coming
you
back.
have to get before we started winning again.
Yeah, we're gonna be 9-5 by that point, bro. And
Yeah,
the amount I paid for the entire freaking 2 seats, it'd have been one ticket. Now
that
so I was
would
like,
be
I'm getting them
crazy.
now, baby.
It would be crazy. So, shout out to Jerry. He's really been grinding. We got a lot more coming. So whenever you see, those shorts he's been crafting up, just subscribe. You'll get even more better in the future. So make sure you subscribe. Also, for this video, comment down below what was your thoughts, of our Week 8 win against the Chicago Bears. Who is your favorite player, favorite play? Comment all that down below. Also, check out our social media, our Instagram, our TikTok, our Twitter. Also, check out our second channel, Casual Cinema. We'll be having something there soon. And that's all we got for you guys today with Birds of Prey Sports, and we're out.
Wow.